call to order the April 15th meeting of the North Andover Planning Board. If you haven't filed your taxes, you got 4 hours and 45 minutes. All right, Jean, can you call roll, please?
Sure. Kate Kelly? Here. John Simons?
Here.
Ethan Goldberg?
I'm here.
Peter Boynton?
Aye.
Chris Columbus?
Here.
And Sean is absent today. So with Sean being absent, we are going to take the continued public hearings for the annual town meeting zoning bylaw amendments. Nothing new has come in. We're going to continue those without taking any additional evidence until May 6th. Okay? Those all continue until May 6th.
What about hearing from
Oh,
DPW?
but I won't be here on May 6th.
Okay, well, we'll deal with that on May 6th
Yeah.
then.
Okay.
That is related to the planning board report.
Right, okay, good.
So that's separate. 1450 Osgood Street, we're also going to continue that until May 6th. There's a question about who the proper applicant is, and we need that answered before we kind of move forward with the request for an insubstantial change. So we're going to, that's be continued to May 6th, is that right, Jean?
Yep.
May 6th. We did receive correspondence, a resident letter. We've seen that letter. Thank you, sir, for the comments, and that will be put on file. Okay, so let's do the order in which we're going to do things tonight. We're going to do 135 Coachman's Lane, that new public hearing. Then we're going to do the discussion item, planning board report, and then we're going to do 430 Osgood Street. Okay, so let's go in that order. 135 Coachman's Lane, William and Ann Belanger, application for watershed special permit under Article 4, Part 5, and Article 10, Section 195-10.7 of the zoning bylaw to authorize expansion of an existing garage and expansion of a portion of the existing dwelling within the 325 non-discharge zone to two bordering vegetated wetlands. The property is located in the R1 zoning district. Hello.
Hello. Thorson Akerley, professional wetland scientist and registered sanitarian with Williams and Sparages, here representing the property owner, William Belanger, and his wife.
Okay, Jean, why don't you tell us a little bit about the project and what posture it comes before us?
Yep. So as you just stated, there are two wetlands within 325 feet of the proposed land disturbance. One is across Coachman's Lane, so you can see up here in the north, there's wetland flagging. But to the south is Carriage Chase Lane, and so there's a wetland off property at Carriage Chase. Because it's off property, they couldn't flag the wetlands there, but Amy Maxner, the conservation administrator, and myself did go out. We ran a tape measure from this wetland line to the point of the closest land disturbance, which is an infiltration trench at the end of the driveway, and that's approximately 121 feet away, so it's outside of the 100-foot buffer zone. And that was confirmed in the field. No concerns have been expressed from town staff, and I think Thor will explain the two proposed additions: relocation of a walkway, installation of a patio, and a draft decision has been prepared for your consideration. The entire stormwater review process has gone through, and there was one revised plan submitted, which is what you're looking at now, that addresses all the concerns.
Is there any conservation involvement?
No, because, like I said, we confirmed it's outside 100 feet.
Okay.
It's approximately 120 to the stone trench.
Okay, Thor, why don't you tell us what you're planning and just give us the highlights of the stormwater?
Sure. So William and his wife are looking to expand two portions of the dwelling, one portion being the garage to house an additional vehicle, and then one portion of the dwelling that you see on the westerly side of the home. It's not really an addition, it's an expansion of an existing living area on that floor of the house. It's just a first floor expansion of that room. In total, we have about 860 square feet of expansion associated with the house garage, and then a portion of the pavement to allow the entry into that garage. Earthwork is pretty well encapsulated here. We expect to be able to reuse the existing foundation for the garage and only add on that small section. Same thing for the dwelling expansion. Generally small footprints that are all within existing lawn areas. No disturbance of trees or native vegetation as part of this. You can see on the plan we call out a construction access across the front portion of the lawn there. They don't anticipate needing to disturb that area for more than a day or two, associated with the excavation of the footings for the addition. They've also agreed to pump cement from the driveway rather than have cement trucks coming over the lawn and chewing more ground up. And then, as you can see, right off the edge of the pavement there, the driveway, we have a proposed construction matting entrance, just to try to limit tracking of sediment onto the driveway and eventually, avoid it getting into Coachman's Lane and obviously into catch basins and then into wetlands, which is, why we're here. Otherwise, disturbance with the garage can pretty much be focused and work can kind of be done from the existing driveway. Naturally, that expansion occurs within existing lawn area next to the garage. There is a portion of that garage proposed within a patio and stairs, which, as Jean mentioned, they're proposing to just relocate that, slide it down south, just below the new garage footprint. As far as stormwater goes, we thought a reasonable solution to both of these areas would be to incorporate a stone infiltration trench, which we've oversized in both areas, for the dwelling expansion to accommodate for the existing roof line and the new roof line from the addition. And then for the driveway and garage portion, that's about double the size as it would be for just the garage footprint expansion. So it'll help capture some of the runoff and treat some of the runoff from the driveway as well. An easy thing to do and not try to skimp on a couple extra feet of infiltration trenches. So it kind of made sense. Erosion controls are proposed around the entire rear of the property as well. So a 12-inch staked mulch stock, which is generally adequate in a situation like this. And then as Jean mentioned, things do kind of slope down towards Carriage Chase Lane, and then a wetland across the driveway. So there is a little bit of a crown, with that driveway. I think if you did have a severe washout, things would be captured at the back of their property or before the driveway. So some protection there, but obviously we don't want to get to that, and that's why the decisions contain a requirement to monitor the project during construction, and what we provide, we believe, will be adequate in protecting any sediment from reaching the wetland resource areas. We have also included, as part of the peer review, just a note that the driveway will be swept during construction at the end of each day and before any rain events. That's really one of the other potential concerns as you have a driveway that slopes, towards the rear of the property. Let's try to keep it clean during construction. I think that's one of the larger potential risks. So we just noted that in the response to the peer review from Worsley Witten. So I think I've mentioned everything, but I'm happy to answer any questions or address anything I may have missed. Thank you.
Any board questions or comments? Any public questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, can we get a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, and Kate, you're gonna vote on this if that's okay?
Sure.
All right, the watershed special permit. All right, why don't we review the draft decision? I did note that there is a deed restriction as to fertilizers. Clients are aware of that as well. Okay. Good.
You have to strike Sean's name on the decision and add Kate.
Yep.
Did you say that the owner is aware of the deed restriction?
Yes.
Yep, thanks.
Okay, any questions, comments, board members? Okay, can we get a motion to approve the watershed special permit?
As
So
amended.
moved.
As a,
As striking the names.
yeah,
Isn't it?
but I don't think that's an amendment though.
Yeah.
That's just, but yes, so motion to approve. Motion made. You get a second?
Second?
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Nope. Okay, that's
Okay.
approved.
John,
Thank you.
made the motion?
Yes, Chris
Okay.
seconded.
All right, thank you all.
All right, thank you. Okay, let us do planning board report items. Is this Article 8 that we're talking about? Okay, Article 8.
So there was a couple of questions at the last meeting. So in the staff report, I detailed, per the charter, what warrant articles come before this board for recommendations in addition to the zoning bylaw amendment articles. John, you had raised the concern that capital budget used to come before the board. It did when there was something that triggered it based on the charter. So there's only certain items. This year doesn't have anything in the capital budget that has an environmental impact or water sewer related, things like that, expansion of water sewer. The 400 Great Pond Road article, which is combined with some improvements to the water treatment plant, is Article 8. And so Jim Stanford, DPW Director, is here to explain the Great Pond Road portion of this article. And the warrant has gone to print, and the warrant says that this article, Planning Board will make a recommendation specific to the Great Pond Road portion of this article, and it's to be made at town meeting because it's already gone to print. And so therefore, you don't necessarily have to make your recommendation tonight. If you want to wait for Sean, that could be on the 6th, or it could be right before town meeting when we meet for that 15 minutes or so.
Okay. Okay, great. Jim, why don't you? Thank you for joining us. We appreciate it.
Great, thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Jim Stanford, Public Works Director. As mentioned, I'm here for the 400 Great Pond Road portion of Article 8. I'm not sure how familiar you are with this. I know a few of the board members were actually on the committee and probably intimately more so than I am. But if I could just give a brief overview and
That'd be wonderful.
Okay, that's what I'll do. So, the funding for Article 8, this portion is $1 million, and it's for demolition of 400 Great Pond Road building, just the house. It's a unique property. It's the only house in the lake. Essentially, in 2022, town meeting authorized purchase, and it was actually the Sutton Boathouse, which was a private retreat built in the early 1900s, 1905, I think, and then converted sometime after that to a private residence, all, I think, within continuous ownership of family members of the Sutton family of North Andover. In 2022, the property came for sale. We believe that there was an environmental benefit from the water treatment standpoint because the house itself is located so close to the water intake to our water treatment plant. So the town meeting authorized the purchase. We then purchased it. We removed the immediate hazard of the oil tank and.
Yeah, I mean, I think, Jim, that's the important thing, is that we're lapped into that because it was meant to go, and yet the oil tanks are right in the basement.
It was in the basement, absolutely,
Yeah.
within the water level. Again, this was a boathouse, a private boathouse, where the resident or the person would walk downstairs and essentially put their canoes in the water or kayaks and right out into the lake. Overall, once we removed that, the select board created a steering committee, which several members are here tonight, with a look at what do we do next with the property once the immediate threat of environmental impact was mitigated. The committee met for, I think, over a year, late 2022. Ultimately, they hired a consultant to look at, to provide information, essentially just information on what should the reuse be. Some of the things we looked at what if we rebuilt the house for some other purpose. We looked at whether or not it could be sold, the property could be sold once the immediate environmental hazard was remediated. And then ultimately we chose what is considered option 3, scenario 3, whereby we raise the house, and there is a garage on the property as well. But that's not part of this proposal tonight, but I can give you a little more detail on the cost estimates relative to that. Ultimately, raise the house in the lake, redo the foundation, and rehab the wall along the lake to stabilize it, fill it in. The overall plan also presented creating a small parking area. Essentially, and I think Mr. Boynton spoke at the select board meeting when the presentation was given in December of '23, I believe. It's been a while now. Essentially, this raising the property or the house provides the greatest degree of protection to the water supply. It was the least cost. It maximized the open space on the property for now and in the future. Also was mentioned that preserving, because a lot of people think that it's an iconic house. I mean, it really is. The committee looked a lot at the historic preservation of it, and really the house has been rebuilt, it's been added on. It doesn't really resemble what the original boathouse looked like. So that was one of the other criteria we looked at. And then the future use for open space. This property probably gives one of the best views of the lake. It's absolutely beautiful. So the committee came back with a recommendation to maintain it as open space, remove the remaining hazard, which is the house and the garage, create some small parking area, and then the town can do with what they want in the future. It really does protect the lake. The consultant came up with an original cost estimate of $1.7 million. We're only asking for $1 million. We want to keep the plan that the committee came up with intact, but we want to do it in phases for a couple of reasons. The one major reason is that the garage right now is in use. DPW has storage there, and the garage isn't inside the lake, so it's a little bit further back from the lake. Fire department and police department all use it for storage. We have in our CIP within the next 3 years, I think, to create a new storage facility on another property in town. Until that time, though, we really need to use the garage. So we didn't think that it was a good idea to create a parking area. We want to keep the garage still secure. But then once we have the new facility, and quite honestly, the fire department's facility master plan, they're rebuilding or remodeling of the fire station. We would like, at that point, we would probably come back to the town and request the remaining funding to remove the garage and create the other aspects of what the committee recommended. So I think one of the things that's different in the cost estimate, the $1 million will, again, it'll raise the house, it'll create that landing area, saving the foundation, and we have, one of the benefits we actually have in-house electrical, plumbing, and HVAC staff. We're also going to look at doing a lot of the work, essentially subcontracting it out as opposed to a full contractor. And then there's also a savings of hundreds of thousands of dollars on the site restoration that'll come later on.
Okay, awesome. That sounds like a good plan, and I think the steering committee was a great way to kind of go about to get this, and it got a lot of different people, and I think that was a really good result of kind of having people kind of put their heads together and how to come up with something and kind of jointly coming up with the best plan. So wonderful. Any questions, comments? Peter?
Jim, thanks for coming tonight and giving us the summary. Sounds like a great plan. Do you know if there's if the demolition plan that you'll execute, does it still preserve one of the things the committee talked about, which was at some point in the future, if funds were identified, that there could potentially be a three-season pavilion that might mimic the original contour of the boathouse. That was subject of quite a bit of discussion of one way to sort of preserve what was the historic aspect of the boathouse, not the residence with all the changes. And there'd been discussion that the demolition could be done in such a way that it would not prohibit at some point in the future putting up a three-season pavilion. Is that still viable?
That's still within the plan.
Great.
One of the costs within the outline from the architect was using structural fill behind the wall. So yes, that's still within the future. Again, we don't want to, as you mentioned, we don't want to restrict the future use, whatever
Yeah.
that may be.
And it sounds like a great plan to utilize that garage on a temporary basis for storage. You think that'll be limited to roughly a 3-year period?
I think 3 years. We had, we've started looking at what the needs will be for our storage. Believe it or not, the police have quite a bit relative to signage and things like that. The fire department has
Yeah.
an incredible amount of storage needs. In fact, we were all fighting over the small space there is.
Yeah.
So we're gonna, again, we think it's a priority because there is so much that's, so much is needed. It is in our capital plan. I think it is about 3 years, but typically those plans, we do the design year 1, construction year 2.
Well, it seems like an additional benefit of, that approach to use it for 3 years is you'll also have, as a result, some presence of town departments on and off on the property, and that's probably just a good side benefit to have some presence there. I assume that we can all be confident that if the storage in that garage involves any hazardous materials, that will be very well taken care of.
It is, I think the most that we've had at times is, we have the boat
Yeah.
that's used by the water treatment plant
Yeah.
that does have some gasoline.
Yeah.
My understanding is they do empty that out.
Yeah.
The other storage is actually the old fire engine, fire
Yeah.
truck. So, yeah, I'll be honest, I haven't been there in a little while. Facilities is really, they've maintained the house. We've had to close it up. There has been some activity over the time, so it is probably a good thing that we do
Yes.
keep
Yeah.
that there.
Good. Well, thanks a lot.
Oh, and if I could just mention the schedule too, is that the funding request, obviously, if approved, would go in July 1st of this year. We really wouldn't anticipate doing work until probably this time next year. We do have to look at the Mass Historic Commission. I think there's a 12-month waiting period if they determine that's necessary, but it's going to take us some more time. We've started the initial engineering, but it will take us a little bit of time. So I don't anticipate it actually being under construction till this time next year, or deconstruction.
Okay. Great.
Great.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Okay, all right. Very helpful. Okay, we'll make our recommendation either on the 6th or at town meeting. Just kind of see how that goes. Okay, we did Custer Lane, we did planning report, okay, continued public hearing, 430 Osgood Street, North Andover Public Schools. Application for limited site plan review under Article 8, Part 3, Site Plan Review, and Article 10, Administration, Section 195, 10.7 of the North Andover zoning bylaw. Applicant proposes renovation of existing athletic field facilities to include the installation of a multi-purpose synthetic turf field, reconstruction of existing tennis courts, drainage improvements, athletic lighting, and wetland restoration. The site is located within the R2 zoning district.
All right, so the meeting packet includes some resident comment, a study done by the town of Arlington, as well as a letter that she had submitted to both Conservation Commission and the Planning Board. In addition, well, up until about 2 or so this afternoon, no additional information had been received by the applicant. However, late today, we did receive a couple of plan sheet updates that Kyle will run through today, and the updates are a result of a request by the Conservation Commission, so.
Okay, so I'll say the resident comments from Ms. Perone are noted and made part of the record. Thank you for those.
I just have one additional comment.
Yeah,
The Board of Health has a discussion item to discuss artificial turf at Thursday's meeting this week. And so it's an agenda item for them. They're just going to discuss artificial turf in general.
okay.
Thank you.
Kyle?
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, board members. For the record, Kyle Rowan. I'm project manager with Gale Associates. We're here on behalf of the owner applicant, Town of North Andover and North Andover Public Schools. So to give just a brief overview of the history to this point, we've met with the planning board. This will be our 5th time tonight. We've submitted 2 formal response packages in that time, the most recent one on March 26th. Also through that time, we've received peer review, stormwater peer review from Horsley Witten, the third-party peer reviewer, with comments received February 20th, March 14th, and April 1st. April 1st being the final round of comments, which have now ultimately been addressed. Let's see, where we left things off with this board, our understanding the last time we met on April 1st was largely a matter of deferring to the North Andover Conservation Commission and their interpretation of some outstanding items. And we discussed that with them at the last hearing with them on April 9th last week. And I can give a brief overview of what came of that hearing. And so, for the record, this is the information that we sent over this afternoon. Ms. Enright had requested that we provide just a brief overview of what took place at that hearing, so we got that out today. There's 4 items, really, that were addressed. The starting one is the fencing at the Freeze track. So, as you all may recall, this was an item of discussion last time, is how far can that fence go? Can we go into the 50-foot no-build zone? We did not get a extremely specific answer from the Conservation Commission, but our understanding was if we can stay out of the 50-foot no-build zone, we should. And that's what we've done here. So what we're proposing is to angle it in towards the property line, and that goes about 30 feet into very deep and thick vegetation, and keeps us outside of the 50-foot no-build zone as well. So that's the revised layout. We're showing this to you tonight, and we're also going to provide a copy of this revision to the Conservation Commission in anticipation for next week's meeting. So
Just to orient, when we did the site visit, and thanks for doing that with us, you showed us how far the fence was planned at that point, and then we asked if it could go further. So I'm just having a hard time orienting this drawing to what we saw. Does that mean the fence will go further than what you showed us during the site visit, or no further?
it goes further, but it goes towards the property, so that
I see.
that part right there, yeah.
Okay,
So going further down, you can see kind of the thicker wiggly lines there. That's the actual tree line. And as you go to the right a little bit, that's thicker tree line as well. So really, we're just trying to 90-degree the fence, go into the thick vegetation, so people basically do not have access to any of those abutting properties.
okay,
Behind.
thank you.
Yep. So that's the revision. This is the associated plan sheet with that revision. That was item 1 of 4 that we discussed with the Conservation Commission last week. The second item that the commission brought up, which we'll bring to your attention tonight, is the existing detention galley beneath the turf field, which is that kind of dark dashed rectangle right there. So that's an existing subsurface stormwater detention galley.
That's currently beneath the grass field where the
Correct.
turf field is planted.
Correct.
Okay.
It's currently beneath the grass field, about 1.5 feet below the playing surface, and it will remain in place, in kind, again, about 1.5 feet beneath the new playing surface. So the commission does not take issue with that necessarily. Their concern was the ability to access that structure through the existing access port and to observe it and maintain it on an annual or biannual basis. So to account for that, we have added access frame covers at the inspection port to that structure, as well as at the covers of the outlet control structure at the very southeast corner of the field. If you go down a little bit, a little left. Yeah, exactly. That little structure there. So we'll have access frame kits. These are actual 40-inch by 40-inch squares in the turf. You'll just be able to pull those out and access the structure that way. And so that, as well as the fencing, those are the only two plan changes that came of last week's meeting with the Conservation Commission. And again, we're issuing all of this documentation to them in a formal response tomorrow. The other two items that came up at that meeting, one was Wayne Street. If you recall, this was the last sort of open-ended item on the Horsley-Witten peer review, was whether or not additional pretreatment should be included to address the runoff off of Wayne Street. We made note to the commission that we are not necessarily proposing any additional improvements to Wayne Street itself, and additional impervious area is limited to that driveway apron you see to the baseball field right there. They seem to agree with that interpretation, nonetheless requested that we confirm that the catch basin directly downstream, down the roadway from that apron, we need to confirm that that, as installed, does have a deep sump and hood for water quality purposes. So we're in the process of confirming that via record plans and checking it in the field. If it does have that, our understanding is there will be no further action required. If it does not have that, it is likely that replacing that structure with a deep sump or adding a hood will be a plan or a Conservation Commission condition. So that's item 3. And item 4, the last one, I believe this is in the draft planning board decision conditions as well, but the combined O&M plan, so combining the existing high school plan with the new O&M plan for this proposed development, the commission requested that we provide that actual combined document, or at least a draft form of that, before next week's hearing, which we are in the process of getting together. And regardless, we anticipate that that combined document is going to be a condition both with this board and with the Conservation Commission. And other than that, another item provided today was just a compiled, complete permit set, updated set with all of the changes that have been made to date over the last 2.5 months or so that we've been meeting with this board and the commission. And that is pretty much where we stand. That's the update.
Just a reminder, you did inquire as to a additional fence or netting at the tennis courts with the commission too.
Yes, thank you. We did also, that was one item that was brought up here, was the increased fence height or netting at the tennis courts. We did have a discussion with the Conservation Commission on that item as well. They agreed that the net benefit to increasing the fence height or adding netting and the associated cost and additional excavation was not necessarily worthwhile for the limited, mitigation that we can expect to achieve from that. So we had the discussion, and they seemed content with moving forward with the proposed design. And that's it.
I gotta stretch my leg out.
Mhm.
Sometimes cramps.
Okay. Okay, any board members, questions, comments? Okay.
Just
yep.
a question about the two things that were being recommended for consideration, the increased height for the fence or netting at the tennis court, and then what was the second one? What was the first one?
The catch basin, the sump and hood at the catch basin?
That's not in our decision, draft decision, though. I don't
No, that we expect to be in the Conservation Commission conditions.
No, my question, Chair, is, should we even have it in our decision since the Conservation Commission?
No. I think it's,
So it should be removed?
which part, which part?
It would be number 12 in the draft decision, which talks about the tennis courts.
Hold on, 1 second.
Okay. And I guess maybe it was the fence.
It's just a finding of fact that was drafted ahead of them going to the Conservation Commission.
Yeah.
So it still is a finding of fact that this board recommended it, and they requested that they talk to the
Okay.
commission.
Yeah, no, there's nothing inaccurate about it,
Yeah.
for sure.
No, I'm just saying it's a finding of fact, it's not a condition,
Yeah.
they don't have to do anything, it's just,
Yep.
it's just documenting that the board made that request.
Very good, that's fine. Yeah, why don't we just take a quick peek through, just see if there's anything we want to discuss before we close the hearing. So, we did have, I will say, we did have comments from members of the public about turf, and I recognize that turf was a discussion point for the Recplex and for funding thereof. I will say, I think that we've done due diligence in terms of getting studies and information and hearing all sorts of sides of it, and I would say that from my perspective, there are strong benefits to turf. There are certainly questions as well and things to watch out for and study, but where it's, I don't think there are easy conclusions to make either way, and where the EPA generally tends to say that it's safe, I think we should defer to our town and our elected officials and our town manager and the people that are in charge to kind of make those decisions where we don't have really clear evidence that supports injuries or health risks or anything like that. And if, as Jean mentioned, the Board of Health is meeting this week, and if the Board of Health were ever to be like, no, we're not gonna allow turf in the town because of health reasons, well, then that would obviously trump things. But up and until something like that, I don't really think it's our purview unless we have compelling evidence to say that a town project should not go forward with turf, and I don't see such compelling evidence. So that was kind of my feeling on the turf. I don't know if anybody has any different opinions or thoughts that they want to share. If they don't, that's okay, and we'll just kind of move forward. I just wanted to kind of share that for the record. But I do appreciate the information and the zealous advocacy for those who wish to see grass fields, and I understand their concerns. Okay, that being said, does anyone have any questions or comments before we close the public hearing? Okay, can I get a motion to close the public hearing as to 430 Osgood Street? Can I get a second?
Second.
Okay. So this is going to be, this is a limited site plan review, so is this just the four of us voting on this?
Yes, the four of you, and you just need, you need majority.
Excuse me, okay. So majority vote on limited site plan review permit, not a special permit, but a limited site plan review under our Dover bylaw.
And since I stepped out, can I do this?
Yes, there was no, I don't think you've really missed too much. Added anything. And you haven't missed any other meetings, right?
No.
Yeah, so I think you're okay. I think you're okay. Okay. Can I get a motion to approve the limited site plan review permit?
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. I do thank all abutters and residents who came and contributed to the process. It was very helpful to us, and I do see that there were changes made based on those. May not have been every change that people wanted, but I think it's an important part of the process. Thank you to the town staff and our Kyle, thank you very much for your help. Laurie for shepherding this through. We appreciate it.
I was going to say, very well done. You were
Thank you.
very measured in your approach. You listened carefully and responded to all of our comments, about our comments and so forth, so nice job.
I appreciate it.
Gene,
Thank you.
something before?
That just went really quick, so I'm
Yeah.
striking Sean's name from here.
Yep.
And updating the plan date to be April 15th, the latest plan sheets that they do.
Yes.
Just housekeeping edits. but
Yes.
Just want to make sure you know that
Yep.
it really happened.
That is fine. Okay,
All right.
that is all. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, board.
Okay, okay, we did 430 Osgood Street, we did annual town meetings, we did Coachman's Lane, we did planning board report removed, Amazon removed, correspondence. Can I get a motion to approve the meeting minutes from April 1st?
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that's all for today, Jean, right?
Yep.
Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, good meeting.